It's Aloha Thursday, swim, bike, run till Saturday. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. It's breakfast with Bob. 'Cause you
Poncho
are an
Man!
Iron Man.
How about a round of applause for our man, Poncho Man? We are presented by EAS Sports Nutrition, Cliff Bar, Timex, Roca, Tanya Porter Resort, Rudy Project, and Slow Twitch. Our next guest, the voice of the Ironman Hall of Famer, a guy who's been here, 1989 was your first time, Mr. Mike Reilly. How you doing?
Thank
How about
you,
a round of
Bob.
applause for Mr. Mike Reilly? There you go. Yeah.
Aloha.
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 We haven't done this before. I don't even open a book.
Well,
where we do this.
we've never talked to
Never chatted about
each
this
other
before.
ever since you married my daughter.
Exactly. Don't bring that up again. Don't bring that up again. I've been dealing with that for 5 years.
You.
So, talk a little bit about when you first came over here and what were your impressions first time out?
I was like a kid in the candy store for the very first time. I had followed the event so long and living in San Diego, with the Marks and Scott
Tinley,
Tinley's
yeah.
and everybody going over, and I was always so jealous. And when I was invited to come over in '89, I vividly remember getting off the plane and the trade winds hitting you and going, "Oh my gosh, this is something I've never felt before."
Yeah.
And then you get into town and you see people walking around, a lot of people that you knew, and you just couldn't get enough. You're trying to look around everywhere and suck up as much as you can, and I could write an entire book about the first year here on everybody I talked to, every experience I had it's just ingrained in me because it was, what it's all about being your first time. You don't forget it.
And the thing is, back then, it's not like you had chip mats out on the course.
No.
It's not like you had real spotters. It's not like you could go online and see what's going on. Once they left town after the swim, you sort of, until they got the Havi, you really didn't have any real numbers. You're trying to keep people informed, and you don't really know that much. And it turned out to be 89, the greatest race ever. Mark Allen, Dave Scott. Mark's been trying to beat that guy all the 80s, and finally he's knocking him off that day. What information were you getting in between seeing them?
I had a couple of people out on the course, and they knew locals, and they knew where the payphones were.
Yes.
So they would call me from I had a landline in the tower, and it would ring, and it would say, this was mostly on the run. The bike, I hardly got any information. On the run, and they kept saying Mark and Dave together. I go, well, how close are they? They're together, and the whole time. And one of the guys said to me, it's like they're touching shoulders. So what I said to the crowd, I'm trying to think, well, how can I say they're running together? It just doesn't seem. I said, by the way, you could tie a string from shoulder to shoulder between Mark and Dave, and they wouldn't break it. They were running so stride in stride, and after seeing footage of it, they were.
No question.
And then I didn't know about the break. I didn't know about the
when Mark got away.
When Mark got away, because by then I just knew they were coming close to town. Had no idea who was coming at me first.
Right.
So you're looking at, and I knew, their running styles, especially Dave, and I know, first thing I thought to myself, that's not Dave Scott. I was as shocked as everybody.
Yeah.
And then went crazy because, you were all very close to Mark and brought him in. So the communication was, but it worked. I mean, I got pieces of papers with the athletes' names, the binoculars. Gosh, I hope their number's not crinkled up so I can't say who they are.
Right.
Stuff like that. But
so when did You Are an Ironman, where did that come from?
I was here in '89 and '90, and I had never said it. And in '91, there was a buddy here from San Diego doing the race, and I met him on the street about 3 days before the race. He goes, Mike, I can't do this. I'm freaked out. I'm not going to be able to do this. And I had gone for a couple of rides with him, and there's a guy out in Poway. And I said, you're going to be fine. You're in good shape. You're going to be fine. Nah, I don't know. And it was just really a case of nerves. Before I left him, the last thing I said to him, I said, you know what? You're going to be an Ironman. And he goes, all right. And he walked away. Didn't think about it. Here he's coming down a Lee Drive. The conversation came into my head, and I said his name, and I go, you are an Ironman, just confirming our conversation.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you're an Ironman. And the crowd went nuts. And he looked up like, oh, and I go, that's pretty cool. Maybe I'll do it for the
try
next
with the next guy.
So next guy was a woman.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, well, it's an Ironman race. You are an Ironman. And she went crazy. And I'm going, this is pretty cool. There was another announcer with me then who was from Canada who never wanted to say it for some reason. So then when somebody would come in, I'd say it, and the crowd would go crazy. So I said, say it. No. No, that's your thing. And so I just kept calling people, and then after the race, people came up. That's the most beautiful thing you could ever say to me. I can't believe I am an Ironman.
Right.
I'm going, wow, this is pretty special.
And over the years, it's taken on a life of its own, where people basically will sign up for races, and when they find out that you're calling it, because they want you to call them across the line. There's something special about that.
It's pretty daunting because it's them doing the swim, bike, run. It's not me. And they say, Mike, your voice, you just keep talking. I can't. It's hard for me to understand that. I'm just a guy that just wants to make sure that the world knows what they accomplished was Herculean. What they accomplished was a goal they set, and to do what everybody should do is finish what they start. And so I put that big exclamation point on their day.
Yes.
Not only their day, a lot of them their lives, because they'll come up and go, it's funny, guys will come up and go, my wife's over there, don't tell her this was the best day of my life. And they go, oh yeah, my kids too, but Mike, this is, and it's just very special. It's a special thing.
At the end of the day, we're in the entertainment business, and that finish line has become a selling point for people doing the Ironman. And over the years, obviously, it's evolved. Music, swag, all the rest of it. You're sort of the coordinator. You're the band leader, putting all that together. How has that changed from '89 to now?
Oh, it's become rock and roll.
Yes,
it's become. I remember when the iPod came out, and I'd have it in my hand, mixing the songs, doing the songs when people would come in, and I kind of knew what would work with keeping the crowd going. My whole goal was to make sure the crowd didn't wane and walk away because they were tired. I wanted to, and I'd always challenge them. Come on, if you think the music's too loud or the voices are too loud, you're too old. And I'm not too old. And everybody loves 80s music, so I'd always go back to the 80s music and it'd keep everybody there. And now it's really down to a science. My son Andy mixes the music for the entire day. And you got to remember, you're taking care of 18-year-olds to 70-year-olds.
So there's got to be a good mix.
You got to be a good mix and keeping the crowd going. So it is entertaining, and people have told me things that, Mike, you're like this guy or that guy. I go, no, I'm not. I'm just a guy out there just trying to keep the crowd. My biggest fear in life is that somebody comes across the finish line and they don't get the accolades that I believe they deserve. So I tell the crowd, I want you going home with sore hands and sore voices. Then you gave everything you could give to every athlete coming in, including your family and friends you're waiting for. So their octaves, they just keep going up. I'll see people screaming, their veins are coming out of their neck, and they walk away like, it was the best day of my life, and they can hardly move, you know? So
in the early days, the people who came to the finish line were family members, period, end of story.
100%.
Right? That was it. Now, and it never ceases, people come over here to watch this event, to be at that finish line. They want to be part of the magic. Part of it is, if they're into triathlon or endurance, there's no better feeling than being at that finish line and feeling like you're part of it. Has that surprised you, just the whole growth of the spectator part of this?
Yeah, it has. And the reason it has is because obviously Ironman is not something everybody is going to do. So if they feel they can't do it because it's such a daunting distance, they go, well, I'll watch it on TV. Those guys are crazy. But all of a sudden, people started coming to the island because family and friends were saying, you got to see the greatest event in the world.
Yeah.
And they'd come, and they just never stopped coming.
Right.
I've had tourists come up to me, or spectators come up to me and go, I was here on the Big Island as a tourist, and I decided to come see the race. And that was 15 years ago. My wife and I have been coming back ever since. That happened last year.
Yeah.
The guy said to me. And that's what it's like. They're just enamored with the event because they're watching people overcome odds that are things you see on TV or what motivational speakers talk about. And this is real life coming down Ali'i Drive.
It's reality TV.
You don't know how many, I'll be on the fence the last hour and some guy will be next to me on a spectator and we'll see a 68-year-old woman come across who battled breast cancer, and I bring her in and he goes, I'm doing this race. I can't, what the heck am I doing? I'm 35 years. And it just inspires the world.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite moments from that finish line? I mean, one that sticks out for me is watching Cameron Brown, I think it was 2000 or 2001, when his wife had just had a baby and she couldn't make it over there. And we're talking cell phones in 2001, right?
Just came out, yeah.
Yeah, right. Fortunately, it wasn't bigger than he was. But I remember him sitting on the finish line and he had just taken second at the most important race, and you running up with a cell phone and him calling his wife.
Well, it was Jane Patterson, the Ironman New Zealand race director, who I knew.
Yeah.
And before Cameron's coming in, I go, this guy's from New Zealand. He's a great athlete, a hero in New Zealand. And all of a sudden, I see her like 10 feet away like this at me with a phone. And I'm going, Jane,
What do you want?
I don't need to talk to anybody. And no, come here. I've got Cam's wife on the phone. And so I grab it. I go, hi, Mike. Can I talk to him? And I go, well, this will be a first. So he comes in. I've got the phone on my side. And he turns around and he lands on his bum. And he sits there. And I go, Cam, I've got your wife on the phone. And he, hi, honey, hi. I go, tell her how much money you won. And he looks at me and he goes, how much money did I win? He didn't know.
Yeah.
And I forget that it was like 45,000
Yeah.
U.S.
Which is about 8 million in New
So he
Zealand.
goes, I go, you won 45,000 U.S. And he goes, honey, I won 64,000 Kiwi.
yeah.
He converted it on
Right.
And she's on the other line screaming her bloody head off.
Yeah, that's great.
And that picture is you've got it in your book, one of the most
It's
famous
famous,
pictures
yes.
of, here I'm got somebody on the phone with their wife.
Yes.
Before phone, it was special.
Some of the other ones, obviously, the mayor last year, Billy Canoe, who I think he had lost about 40 pounds. And I remember him when he told us he was training for this, that he realized how beautiful this island was. When you drive by things, you don't really notice it. But when you're running really slow, or you're riding a road bike, or riding your triathlon bike, all of a sudden he realized how beautiful his island was. He learned about his island. Him coming across the finish line, it was almost like it was scripted. Okay, we'll have the mayor in the last minute or so will come across the line, and he'll be one of the most dynamic guys in the world, and that'll culminate your show.
I have a little selfishness in the last hour or so. I want something great to happen.
Yes.
And every finish is great, but I was fearing Billy wasn't going to make it.
Yeah.
So I was just freaking out thinking, because the year before when he shot off the cannon, he goes, look, Mike, I'm doing the race next year. And that's the first I found out. I go, wow, Billy, that's great. So I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to do it. So to come back and to hear about his training and thinking he's not going to finish. When he came through, there was a rumor through town that he had posted something that he was going to pay me money to call him an Ironman twice.
Yes.
He wanted to hear it 2 times. And I heard about that. So when Billy came through, you saw his arms in the air, all
like
his
this.
family
He's
and
like
friends,
that. I wanna
all
hear
of
it.
West Hawaii, they adore him. He's the mayor, they adore him. And when he came through and I call him an Ironman, and he was walking down the ramp and he just kind of gave me a look. I go, Billy, you're an Ironman again. And he's, he's like, so he was the only one I did it for twice last year. I didn't take money for it.
Nice.
I did it on my own. Let's get that clear.
Are there other moments that really stick out for you? A lot of them, obviously, the ones right before midnight.
Bob, the greatest moments, whether it was Sean and Wendy crawling in, whether it was
Yes.
Mark coming back after
At 95,
in 95,
yeah.
whether it was Welchie finally as the Australian
First
winning it.
non-American guy, yeah.
But the real ones are the ones we're close to, family and
Yes.
friends, and that you bring in and the world doesn't know.
Right.
It's just the emotion of that. People ask me what was my greatest Ironman call to bring anybody in, and now it's very easy to answer that. When I brought my son Andy in to the finish line in Arizona 2 years, you think about it. He was 2 years old when I started Hawaii. Heck, he wasn't even born when I started announcing. And
Yes.
so, mom and sister are down there waiting for him, and I went down. And when he came in, the first thing I said, just stay, don't be getting emotional here. It's another Ironman finisher. So I brought Andy Reilly. You are an Ironman. And I was fine. And then
you looked out and saw
Aaron,
Rose.
Aaron put the medal on him. Aaron put the Mylar blanket around him. Rose put the medal on him. And they kind of turned away and just walked away from me. I'm standing there like chopped liver.
And they're like, yeah.
And I'm going, so I said it again. I said, Andy Reilly, my boy, you're an Ironman. And that's when
That's
I
when you
lost
lost it?
I'm going, oh, great. So it was pretty special bringing a son in. It was, I don't think anything's going to top that.
When we're traveling around the world, it's one thing, when you started in 89, a number of years later, all of a sudden, the Ironman just exploded. And you got Lake Placid and Coeur d'Alene and Panama City. And at one time, it was Canada and Kona in terms of the U.S. and in
Right.
North America. And all of a sudden, there's all these events. And going to a place like Lake Placid for the first time or Panama City for the first time, I'm sure there was a period where the locals were like, what the heck is this?
Yeah. I was pretty spoiled. I had Hawaii.
Yes.
The next one I went to was Australia, which was just a year or two younger than this race. And the Aussies, it was pandemonium. I thought Hawaii was crazy. There, triathlon down there is like a national sport.
Right, yeah.
I just couldn't believe there were heroes. And I go, God, it's got to be like that in the U.S. one day, because the Australians enamored it. So I had that finish line. And then I went to New Zealand, and they were just as crazy as the Aussies. Then in '99, Lake Placid happened. Olympic Village, the 36 Olympics and the 80 Winter Olympics in this village of Lake Placid. It's a gorgeous place. Here we're on the Olympic ice skating oval that Eric Heiden set, 7 gold medals on. It's just the history there. And we get to the finish line, and the winner's about, Thomas Elrigo won that race. He's about 12 minutes away, and I got 12 people in the stands. I'm going, this is not right. So I just... brought him in and brought Heather Fury in. She won it the first year. And then the crowd started coming. They didn't know where to go or what to do.
Right.
And so it was like logistics. And so finally we got the crowd there. And then the final few hours, it was great. But Lake Placid now is probably the largest crowd of any North America race at the finish line.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. So, it took a while for people to... it's because then only family and friends, but they didn't know. I'll wait till my wife comes in before I go to the finish line.
What is people talk about the triathletes having a long day on race day, and I know your day goes forever. Talk about your day on race day, because you're up like at 3 a.m, and
it's just another day in our lives. I look at it as a day of honor. I kind of want it to last longer, and my day go through stages. Obviously, getting this race started on time, making sure everybody's calm in the morning. If they're bringing them out of the water, then there's a hot corner. So it goes in stages, and my day really begins. Obviously from 3 o'clock to midnight. That's the day. And there are times during the day, they're coming in hot and heavy, but I don't. I feel if I lose energy, I'm not going to be able to do what those athletes deserve from me. Yes. And so I just keep the level up very high, and I'm psyched. And I don't know. It's longer for other people to see what I do than it is for me.
Well, because you're getting energy from their
athlete,
energy.
Everyone.
Love it.
Everyone.
Love you like a brother, my man. Thanks for everything you do to make this event and this sport really, really special.
Thank you very much, Bob.
Mike Reilly, voice of Ironman. How about a round of applause? Again, presented by ES Sports Nutrition, Cliff Bar, Timex, Roca, Tanya Porter Resort, Rudy Project, Slow Twitch, and Poncho Man.
It's Aloha Thursday. Don't swim, bike, and something till Saturday. It's breakfast with Bob, 'cause you are Iron Man. Good morning, good morning.
Copyright Mike Reilly.
No, I've never done that.
1989.
Was this first time? Yeah.